the presentation there on the screen?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, we can see the screen. Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Perfect. So this presentation really is going to just be about interacting with the police and knowing what you do and don't have to do. I'm going to try to keep it quite simple. And I want to be clear, and I want everyone to sort of leave today's webinar knowing that really you don't have, number one, you don't have to talk to the police usually. Number two, you don't have to agree to searches of your personal belongings, your cell phone, your home. And I want to make sure that everyone understands what the actual scope of police power is, because I think that often in our society, we think that the police have more power than in fact they do. And then we're more inclined to agree to things that maybe we don't want to agree to, or you know, say things or interact with them in ways we don't maybe want to. So I'll try to keep it very simple. If at any point there are questions as we cover different topics, please don't hesitate to just interrupt. I won't think it's rude at all, and I welcome questions while they're fresh in your mind. So if any of that comes up, please don't hesitate. You can also just message in the chat function, and then I should be able to see it too. So I'll try to keep my eye out for those questions as well. So like I said, today we're just going to be talking about your rights with dealing with the police. Number two, searches of your personal belongings, your body, your vehicles, your cell phones. And then three, your right to counsel, and then talking to the police or making statements to the police. Oh, wrong direction. Just give me 1 second here. All right. So just to begin here, what if I'm stopped by the police? So when can police stop you and talk to you? There's sort of three circumstances that they can do this. Number one, they can stop you and talk to you if they believe that you've committed some kind of a crime. Okay. They can stop and try to talk to you if they see you committing some kind of a crime. Or three, if you're driving. And we'll talk about driving more specifically at the end, but those are generally the times that the police can talk to you. There are other circumstances as well, when they're investigating a crime and you may be a witness, for example, they're allowed to try to talk to you. It doesn't mean that you necessarily have to provide the police with information or talk to the police. So if the police do try to talk to you, I would say the best thing to do, or the easiest thing to do, is just to really begin by saying, am I under arrest? So are the police arresting you? If they say yes, you can ask why or what for. And if they say no, well, then technically you're allowed to go. There's no reason why you have to stay there and talk to the police. Sorry, just give me 1 minute here. I'm trying to just figure out why this isn't, why it's allowing me to go backwards, but not forwards. Okay, there we go. So, like I say, that first question that you can ask them is, number one, am I under arrest? Or the other question that you can ask them is, am I free to go? So you're really asking them there, like, is there any reason that I have to stay and talk to you? And if they say no, then you should ask why not, right? In this same kind of area, do I have to give police my ID, or do I have to tell them my name? And the answer to this really is that in most cases, you don't need to provide police with this information. The exceptions are, number one, if you're being arrested. Number two, if you're being detained. And by detained, that's a legal term, but really it just means that you're not free to go. So for example, if you were to ask the police, am I free to leave? And they say no, then you're being detained, right? Three, if you're driving. And then four, if you're riding a bicycle or you're jaywalking, or there's some kind of non-criminal violation, right? Like traffic offense, something like that. Importantly here, if you lie and you tell the police a different name, even a name that's close to your name, or your middle name mixed up with your last name or your first name, you know, you need to be very careful, because technically they can charge you with obstruction, and they will charge you with obstruction. If they find out that that's a false name, and they almost always do, they will charge you. So you do need to be careful. Second, right, if you're driving, yeah, you need to give them your ID if they ask for your ID, and you need to give them any other documents that they ask for. So your license, your registration, your insurance. You should also know, if the police believe that you're committing some kind of crime and they're asking you for your ID or asking you for your name, and you refuse to give that to them, they can also charge you, right? And they can arrest you for that. But other than that, other than really if you're being arrested, detained, or you're driving, you don't need to give police your name, okay? In that same area, do you have to answer the police's questions? And again, the answer there is no. And it's a very clear no. You know, the natural human response is that people want to be, you know, cooperative and polite. And of course, if you want to talk to the police, there's no reason why, you know, you shouldn't or you can't. But you should know that you don't have to. There's absolutely no obligation in Canadian law, whether you're an accused person or whether you're a witness, whether you saw something, it doesn't matter. You don't have to talk to the police in any circumstances. The only exception is if you've been in a car accident. Okay, so if you've been in a car accident, I would suggest that you phone a lawyer and you get some legal advice, because in Alberta, the Traffic Safety Act does require you to make a written statement. So that's the one exception, and it's the only exception. Other than that, the answer is very clear. It's no, whether you're a witness, whether you're a victim, whether you're an accused person, whether you're a suspect, you do not need to answer the police's questions. If you are a witness and you have not provided the police a statement, for example, and you receive a subpoena. So a subpoena is a document that would be given to you usually by the police. And it's something that would require you to go to court and to give any evidence about what you saw, heard, observed, etc., for a trial. So if you receive one of those subpoenas, you do need to obey a subpoena. And that's different than talking to the police, okay? So you may, if you are a witness, yes, you may be required to give evidence in court, but until that happens, the answer is no. You don't need to provide police with information to assist with their investigation, okay? Okay, so just to talk a little bit more about arrest and detention, right? So this is important for a few reasons. The main reason is that if you are arrested or if you are detained, and by that again, I mean that you're not free to go, so that you have to stay there with the police. It's important because the Charter of Rights are triggered. And so your charter rights as an individual are then active, right? And it's important because those are the rights that protect you. Those are the rights that give you right to counsel, that prevent you from being arbitrarily detained, that give you the right to be free against search and seizure, unwarranted search and seizure. And so that's why it's really important to realize, am I being arrested or can I just leave here, right? And the charter really is the law in Canada that sets out the relationship between the state and state actors, for example, the police, and individuals that live here. And the reason that it's in place is to correct the power imbalance, right? We have a government and government resources that, they have significant funds, they have significant resources, and they have significant power. They have tremendous power. And the whole reason that we have the charter in the first place is to try to correct the power imbalance and to give individuals protection. And so that's why all of this matters in the first place, right? And so if you are arrested, it's quite clear. It's much more clear than being detained. So if you're arrested, the police, number one, need to tell you what you're being arrested for, okay? And usually they just say it very straightforward. You are under arrest for assault. Do you understand? Okay. Now, sometimes people don't understand, what an arrest can be based on. And police are allowed to arrest anyone where they have reasonable and probable grounds to believe that a crime has been committed. Now, that can be like you see on TV, on CSI, it can be physical evidence, like it can be forensic evidence, but a lot of the times it's what other people have said, right? It's what witnesses say. And so sometimes people will phone and will say, I've been arrested, and they don't have any evidence. Well, the evidence that the police have is what someone or what people have told them, okay? So if I'm arrested for assault because someone phones the police and says that I hit them, for example, even if that's not true and I didn't do that, if the police believe that person, then that's the evidence and that's the basis for the charges, okay? Obviously, the arrest can also be based on police's own observations if they see something happening, or like I say, what other people have told them. Detention is more challenging, it's more complicated. So this is where police have told you that you are not free to go, but you're also not under arrest. Okay, so it's this in-between space where, and it can happen in two ways. Number one, it can be a physical detention. And so by that, I mean, it could be police handcuffing you, for example, but not telling you that they are arresting you or not telling you what you're under arrest for. Or it could be them grabbing your arm and saying, no, you have to step away from that person or that thing, okay? The second way, and the more typical way, is if there's something in the circumstance that leads you to believe that you're not free to go, okay? Either the police tell you you're not free to go, or it's very clear that you can't just leave, okay? For example, let's say you are in a passenger in a vehicle and they're asking questions of the driver and you start to walk away from the vehicle, you get out of the vehicle, you start to walk away and they say, hey, okay, and you stop walking. Obviously, most people are thinking, oh, this means I can't leave. I can't just walk away, right? Even if they haven't been clear about that. And so that's why it's important, is because if those kinds of interactions happen with the police, you are entitled to know why you can't leave or what you're being investigated for or what you're being arrested for. And then number two, it's important because they have to give you the right to talk to a lawyer as soon as possible, even if you're not being arrested. That's just if you're not free to go. And the police mess this up all the time, okay? It is okay to say that you want to talk to a lawyer. It's okay to interrupt the police and ask more questions about what's going on, okay? So like I said, number one, they must immediately tell you what you're under arrest for or what you're under investigation for. Number two, they must immediately give you your right to talk to a lawyer. And then number three, if you say yes, and I've written here in the slide, you should always say yes that you want to talk to a lawyer. Our jobs become a lot more difficult if you just say, no, it's fine, I'll talk to one later. You really should get some legal advice. It's completely free. There are, hundreds of lawyers in Edmonton that are available that can talk to you and that can give you information that will help you in this situation. And it's really important for when it comes to fighting your case later on, if you are arrested, that you've said, yeah, I actually do want to talk to a lawyer and I do want to get some legal advice, okay?
So, quick question.
Of course, yeah.
Why would we allow the police to have the power to detain someone if they cannot even tell us why are we detained for, so.
Yeah, so police have that power, Jabril, because they are allowed to investigate certain crimes. So for example, if someone made a call that said at this location, I saw two Black Canadian women fighting. Both were wearing hijabs. They were both around the same height, and one woman punched the other woman. Let's say police arrive on scene and they don't know who's who. So they're allowed to detain both people to try to investigate what is this, what is the crime, right? So that's an example, right? Is if the police are allowed. Now, keep in mind, and that's a really good question, keep in mind that when they are detaining people for an investigation, one of the criteria is that it has to be brief in duration. And when I say brief, I mean brief. You shouldn't be there an hour. That's crazy, right? And that would probably be a violation of your charter rights. Okay. Now, hoping you say yes, that you want to talk to a lawyer, they have to facilitate that as soon as it's practical to do that. And usually 9 times out of 10, that's at the police station. They're not going to be giving you your cell phone to try to phone a lawyer. Usually it happens at the police station immediately once you get there. All right. Any questions about, just to go back to that, any other questions about interacting with the police or answering their questions here at this initial stage? No, quiet crowd.
No, I was good.
Go ahead. And Nasra, you have a question or Dabo?
Oh no, I was just gonna say it was a rather straightforward.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. I'm trying to keep it as straightforward as I can, so that's good feedback. So just transitioning into when can the police search me, right? And this gets a little bit more complicated. So number one is what we call search incident to arrest. So if you have been arrested, the police are allowed to search you for 2 reasons. And when I say search, I mean really they should be doing, or they always do, a pat down search of your physical body, of your person, right? And so when they're doing that, they're allowed to do that for 2 reasons. Number one, for officer or public safety. And so usually that means for weapons, right? They're patting you down to see, is this person do they have bear spray? Do they have a knife? Whatever. The second sort of reason that they're allowed to search is if they believe that there is further evidence for the charges that you've just been arrested for that will be revealed from the search, okay? So it can't be some totally different crime or some totally different thing that they're investigating. It actually needs to be connected to what it is you've just been arrested for. And so I think my example of this would be, if you've been arrested for trafficking drugs, let's say, the typically, yeah, the police are only allowed to pat me down, and if they feel something that feels like a knife, then yeah, they can take that knife out. But let's say I've been arrested this time for trafficking drugs. They're going to be searching me for things like, do I have multiple cell phones? Do I have scales on me? Do I have baggies? Do I have other drug paraphernalia that would help substantiate, that would help support the charges that they've already laid, right? And that would be a lawful search, okay? What if you haven't been arrested, right? So that's an example. If you have been arrested, the two ways or the two circumstances that you can be searched. If you haven't been arrested, the answer basically is no, they shouldn't be searching you. And that's quite absolute. Probably the two exceptions to that would be if the police find you in a place where they're searching for drugs. So if the police, for example, were executing a search warrant on a house that they believed was a drug house. So they believed that in this house, it was being used to traffic drugs. Well, then, yeah, if you're in the house when they're executing the warrant, they can probably search you to see whether or not you have anything connected to that investigation on your person. And then number two, if you're in a vehicle with open alcohol, they can search you to see whether or not you have any open alcohol on you. That very rarely happens, but it is in the provincial legislation. It's allowed to take place. The other circumstances that we see people getting searched, whether they're under arrest or not, is if they agree to being searched, right? And this is like, I'm talking about your body, I'm talking about your home, I'm talking about your personal belongings, anything, right? And so this takes us into consent searches, which are, I want everyone just to know that you do not, under any circumstances, need to consent or agree to police searching your body, your belongings, your vehicle, your house at all, okay? And oftentimes, the reality is that because of our relationship to police, of course you want to be cooperative, and of course you want to, there's this sort of notion of, okay, well, if I don't have anything to hide, then yeah, I guess you can just go and search my whole house. And it's really, people need to know that you do not need to agree for the police to search anything at all. If you are going to agree, there's several legal criteria that need to be met that are never met by the police. Practically in real life, this looks like the police just saying, hi, is this your home? You say yes, and they say, do you mind if we come in and have a look? Or is this your vehicle? Okay, can we search it? Or we're going to search it here. This isn't like an extensive thing that they go through all of these criteria. And so just so that I'm bringing it up so that how it's actually somewhat more complicated than the police suggest, and that you do not need to agree. So number one, in order for consent to be valid, someone needs to obviously have given consent. So someone needs to say, yes, you can do that, or have implied that in some way. Number two, the person who gives consent must actually have the authority to give consent. So if I'm staying at your house or your apartment for summer holidays, I've come to visit you, and you're out at work, and the police come by and they say, hey, we're trying to investigate this, or there's been some trouble in the area, there's been a break-in, and we're just going door to door to see if any of the property that's missing is in any of the residents. Do you mind if we take a look? And I say, oh yeah, sure, of course, come on in. I don't have the authority. It's not my home. And so that's an example, right, of where that wouldn't be valid. Number three, the consent has to be truly voluntary. So I can't be threatened. So for example, the police can't say, oh, let us into the apartment, or you're not going to see your kids again. Something like that, right? It needs to be truly voluntary, if I agree. Number 4, the nature of the police conduct. You should know why the police want to search whatever it is they want to search. What are they looking for? How long is this search going to go on? What is the scope of the search? You're allowed to know those things, and you're allowed to ask those questions. What are you looking for? How long is this going to be? Where are you going to look? Is it just you? Is it other people? Those kinds of questions. Number 5, the police need to tell you, and they never do, but they need to tell you that you're able to say no. You need to have an understanding that you are able to say no in those circumstances. And then number 6, the person who gives consent needs to also be aware of the potential consequences of giving the consent. So, for example, let's say I'm staying at your apartment. Again, I'm still at your apartment. And I'm there on holidays. The police come by and they say they want to search. I let them in. In their search, they find a whole bunch of drugs, for example. Okay, I should know, or I should be made aware of the fact that because I'm staying there, I can also be charged, and I probably will be charged too, right, for possession of those drugs because I'm in the apartment. So the person who's giving consent needs to know what are the consequences here if I do say yes. And like I say, 9 times out of 10, the police don't ever go through this information with you. And I just go through it with you now so that you know that there is no pressure to consent. There is no pressure to say yes. You do not need to give the police permission to search your belongings, your home, your car, whatever. Does that make sense?
Quick question, Laura. In the area of consent, is there age restrictions? If you are a teenager, you are in school, a couple of you guys fight, some of them, do something kind of, that teenager, behaviors and so on. Can the police come in and ask, where's your son, or the principal himself?
So we'll talk about searches in a school context later, but
Okay, sure.
Yeah, but for it to be valid consent though, like to answer your question directly though, no, it doesn't change if the person's a minor. The police should, and in fact, for people that are minors, they should, I think, be afforded increased sort of protection, right? And because people that are youth don't know these things, the law is intimidating, the police are intimidating for adults. And so we have even more protections when it comes to youth. And so, yeah, all of these criteria still apply. Okay, we've got a question just from Ali as well.
And actually, I just want to add one comment here. And also people from Africa, if a police comes to your house, you may even disappear from the face of the earth. So over there, whenever police comes and talks to you, you have to talk to them and give everything.
Sure.
Information. So the people, some of them are coming from that part of the world, so it's better for them to know these sorts. Thank you.
Yeah, no, and that's a really, really good point. And then Ali's got a question here. Is everyone in the car or house equally responsible if something is found? So the short answer is yes, usually. Typically, Ali, in those situations, let's say someone's arrested, there's something that the police find in a vehicle, they will always arrest the driver, right? So possession, usually we see this in possession cases, and I'm talking about possession usually of drugs or of weapons, firearms typically. In those cases, they will always charge the driver because possession has 2 things. Number 1, the first component of possession is knowledge, right? And so the police need to prove, or the Crown prosecutor would need to prove that the person has knowledge. And then number 2, the second element is control. And that's what the knowledge and control element is what they need to prove possession. And there can be more than one person in possession of something at one time. And so oftentimes they will charge all of the occupants of the house and all of the occupants of the vehicle. Now that depends on the facts of each case and where the things are located in the vehicle and in the house. So for example, in the vehicle, if you and I are driving together and for whatever reason, the police are searching the vehicle and I'm in the passenger seat. And then when I get out of the vehicle, there's drugs that are on the seat underneath me. They may just charge me because that's where I was. And so it's most likely that I was the one who had knowledge and control of it. Similarly, in a house, for example, if the drugs are in a common area, like if they're in the living room, then yeah, everyone is probably going to get charged. Who's ever on the lease, who's ever IDs they find in the house, everyone's probably going to get charged. And if, for example, the drugs or weapons, whatever, is in someone's bedroom and they know, for example, let's say it's in my bedroom and they know it's my bedroom because it's in like my bedside drawer along with my ID or my mail, pieces of my mail or my passport, for example, it says it's clearly my bedroom, then they probably would just charge me. So it does depend kind of on where the things are located. Okay, if they find something in the trunk and you're not aware, yeah. So that's usually if things are in the trunk, they charge everyone. Yeah. And then and then it's an issue for trial, right? About who knew what. Yeah. All right. Search, so this is related, right? When can police search my home? So normally, like the number one rule is that police shouldn't be in your house, right? Generally, they're not allowed to just come into your house, okay? And in Canadian law, there's law that says, a person's house is their castle. And so you have some of the highest privacy rights, you have the highest expectation of privacy in your home in Canadian law. So this is sort of the most securely and heavily guarded area of your property, your personal property is your home. Police can come into your home. Number one, if they have a search warrant. Number two, if they have a warrant to come into your home to arrest someone that they know is there, right? And just to go on those 2 points. So number one, if they have a search warrant, they have to give it to you. So it will say, they'll give you a copy of the search warrant. It will say why they're allowed to search it, what they're allowed to search. So for example, are they allowed to search just my house, or are they allowed to also search the garage? What times can they search? Okay, they're searching from 6 o'clock tonight until 6 o'clock tomorrow morning, whatever, right? It will have all on the search warrant. And so if the police present you with a search warrant, you do have to let them in. Like that is a judge saying, yep, they have authority to go into your house in this particular case, okay? If you refuse, they're going to come in anyways, and they will come in with force, okay? So if there's a warrant, there's not much you can do. If they have a warrant to arrest someone, so again, someone can't just like camp out in your house to avoid the police. And so if they show up and they have a warrant, again, there's nothing you can do, and the police are allowed to come into your house with that warrant. It's a judge that's authorized them to do just that. Other circumstances here, if they have your permission, again, we just went through all of those items that would make it valid consent. Number 4, urgent circumstances. So urgent circumstances would be, number 1, if the police are in hot pursuit. So like I said, someone can't just come into the house and use it as a safe house. Like for example, let's say the police are in a flight from police investigation. So someone is actively driving away from the police, is not pulling over their car. The helicopter's going, they're following them. They follow the car all the way to my house, and then they get to my house, okay? And the person's inside my house. Well, no, the police are allowed to come in because they were in hot pursuit. They were pursuing that person. They were following that person all the way up into my house. So they're allowed to come in that circumstance. If 911 has been called from your house, they may or may not be allowed to come in. I think that's it. Like, if they believe someone's in trouble in the house, then they can probably come in. What else? If they're investigating a property complaint. So that's a situation where, you know, if you phone 911 because someone, for example, if your house is broken into, yeah, the police are obviously allowed to come in so they can investigate it. They're trying to help you figure out who broke in. They're trying to take forensics from the scene. So really the takeaway from that is the police shouldn't be in your house unless they have a warrant, or unless you want them in there and you've invited them in. Turning to, back to warrants. This is just an important point. If the police come and they're executing a warrant, they can obviously take any drugs, guns, other illegal things, but they can also take non-illegal things, for example, cell phones that they think are connected to the investigation. If they have 90 days to hold on to that stuff. So for example, if they take my cell phone when they came and executed the warrant, they've got 90 days. After that 90 days expires, they can either apply for more time, or they have to give back the cell phone or whatever other property it is, right? So if that happens, what I would suggest is contacting a lawyer to help you out with that, or contacting the police and saying, you know, it's been 90 days, how do I get my property back? Okay. When can police search my cell phone? So the rule usually is that police aren't allowed to search your cell phones. Police shouldn't be searching your cell phones unless, number one, you've given them permission. And again, we've already talked about what consent actually looks like. Number two, if the police have a warrant. So again, if the police have a warrant, and usually for cell phones, the two areas that we see warrants being granted for cell phones are where, number one, like I say, drug activity, where they think that I am using the cell phone to help traffic and sell drugs. So that's one example. Or offenses that are related to sort of sexual offenses against children on the internet, right? Like people communicating with underage people online. Those are other situations where they will likely be seizing your cell phone, okay? And just on that note too, right? Like with those types of offenses, you should know that even if you wipe your phone or clear your phone, there's metadata, right? That they then send my phone off to Ottawa, and they have a team of people who are they're forensic technologists. They work just on phones, and they go through and they comb through all of the data, both the surface data, but then also the metadata and all of the footprints, so that they can see who accessed what when, even if you've deleted it. So that's just a warning when it comes to evidence on cell phones, okay? Yeah, so if police have a warrant, those are usually the only times that police have warrants for cell phones. And then three, this is the majority of cases where it's pursuant to a search incident to arrest. So again, if you've been arrested for something, in certain circumstances, I would say rare circumstances, they're allowed to search your cell phone. So I'll go through that in more detail.
So Laura, how come this information is not available on the police website so the citizens know what their rights are?
You know, I don't know. I guess that's a police policy decision that they make. And I don't know the answer, right? But this is why, like, I'm very happy to be here because I think that the majority of people don't know this information. And like I say, the whole reason that we have these protections is to try to correct that power imbalance with the state, right? Because ultimately, you know, when police or when you're dealing with police or a person in authority, it's scary. Like it can be, right? And so that's why, you know, knowledge is power here. Asking questions to the police if you're not sure about what's happening or why is completely okay, right? Yeah.
Thank you.
Any more questions just on that subject? No. All right. So yeah, going back to the search incident to arrest. So the police can search your phone if the number one, the arrest is a lawful, valid arrest. And then number two, if the search of the cell phone is truly incident to arrest. And so by that, I mean, again, that they believe that there's something on that phone, that there's some evidence on that phone that is going to support, that is going to further support the charges that the police have just arrested me for. So for example, let's say that I have been, let's say I have a no contact order or restraining order with my spouse, and I've been breaking it, and I've been texting him, and I won't stop. And so finally he phones the police and he says she won't stop texting me. She's texting me right now as I'm on the phone with you. She's nonstop texting me. And I'm not allowed to, right? I have a court order that prohibits me from texting him or from communicating with him. That's a situation where the police may be able to search my phone to get more evidence, i.e. the text messages, right? To support the charges, right? Of either criminal harassment or breaking that court order. So that's an example where, yes, the police believe in that moment, based on what he says, that, yeah, she's texting me right now as this is happening. The police believe, yeah, we're going to find these text messages based on what he's saying, and that's objectively reasonable, so that, you know, any other person in that situation would think, yeah, they'll find the text messages. There are limitations on how the police can search your cell phones. So number one, the nature, the scope of the search has to be tailored. So in that example that I just gave, yeah, they're allowed to see, has she been texting the spouse, right? They're not allowed to go through all of my conversation history or all of my pictures or all of my Google history or go through all of my emails. Absolutely not. Okay, so the Supreme Court of Canada has said, if you're searching cell phones and it's truly incident to an arrest, it needs to be very limited. And this is not a free-for-all. Okay, this is not just an open book. You go for it, police. You can search through whatever you want. Okay, so the police shouldn't be looking through your emails from 2 years ago. And then number four, they need to be taking detailed notes about what they're searching, why they're searching it, how they're doing it, what they're looking at. Okay, the Supreme Court of Canada has also made quite clear that if this is going to happen, they better be taking very detailed notes about exactly what they're doing in these situations. Passwords. No, you don't need to give police your password if they ask for your password. Okay, that's just a full stop. It's an infringement of your right to remain silent. You don't have any obligation to help provide the police with information that can then help incriminate you, right? That's the whole point of our rights to silence, is that is that Canadian law recognizes that the individual, so yes, the state is allowed to investigate me all they want for whatever they want, but it goes too far when we're requiring individuals to assist the police in gathering incriminating information against them, against themselves. So no, like you don't need to provide your password. And that's very clear in Canada law, at least. No, the police aren't allowed to hold your phone up to your face to try to get it to unlock. No, the police aren't allowed to use your finger to try to unlock your phone. If your phone's locked, they can seize your phone, so they can keep it. They can try to get it unlocked, and they can search for whatever it is they want, keeping in mind that they would need to then get a warrant from a judge that would then authorize them to search through the phone. Does that make sense? Okay.
Yes.
Any questions on that part of it?
It seems to be we're so quiet. Any question for Laura?
I do have
Come on,
one
guys.
question.
Yeah.
I read recently, I don't remember if it was Canada or the US, that the police threatened someone to unlock their phone, or they were gonna do something to them. And the person did it. And while they did find evidence, the evidence was thrown out because of that threat.
Yeah.
Like
So in the States, it's different. It's not necessarily the right to remain silent. It's the right against self-incrimination. So it is slightly different. And here, because it is the right to remain silent, they shouldn't be threatening you, like, for example, threatening to charge you with obstruction of justice for not complying. I would say if the police get pushy on this, I would say I want to talk to a lawyer. And they should allow you an opportunity to talk to a lawyer if they're trying to get into your phone or threatening to charge you with new criminal offenses. Yeah. And here's the takeaway. Like, practically, number one, you should just have your digital devices locked, right? This doesn't become a problem. Like, police aren't searching your cell phone if it's locked and if you're not giving them the password. So practically, number one, if you should lock all of your digital devices, whether they're your laptops, your iPads, your cell phones, whatever. Two, I would really just say you shouldn't be giving police permission to search your phone. We have all of our lives on these, the Supreme Court's called them mini computers, right? They're essentially, they have your banking information, they have all of your, photos of your whole family, etc. It's extremely intimate information. And I would just say that you shouldn't be allowing the police to go through your cell phone. Three, like I said, if they're getting pushy about it, I would say that you want to talk to a lawyer. And then again, four, if the police want to search your phone, they can seize it. They can apply to a judge for authorization, where they're going to have to appropriately lay out all the grounds for why they think there's going to be evidence on that phone, which is much harder than you just agreeing, for example. So it's really important that you recognize you're not being rude to the police. They're not going to charge you with something. They're not going to think any less of you if you don't want your cell phone searched, okay? Searches while at school. So schools are a weird context. There shouldn't be any difference with cell phone searches in a school context. But I think that maybe, I don't know, I'm sort of out of touch with youth and with younger people. And so there probably are people here that have kids or that are in school that know this better than I do. The answer is like, no, your teachers shouldn't be going through your phones. Teachers shouldn't be going through your children's phones. There should be all of those charter protections in a school too. I think that that's very clear. Now, do I think that the teachers can take your phone if you've been chatting on your phone all day instead of paying attention in school? Yeah. So I think that they can take the phone, but they shouldn't be going inside the phone and going through everything. And same goes with the principal. If you're called to the principal's office and they're the principal saying, so-and-so sent this message. We're concerned about it. Can we see what you have on your phone? I would say that you do not have to provide the principal with that information, and that it's information that investigation should be left to the police, right? That's what I would say. And you know, the reason I'm saying that is that like we're living in 2021 now, where people, there's, you know, Snapchat exists, people send intimate pictures, right? And that's actually just on that note, like you should know too that someone disseminating you know, an intimate image without your consent is a crime, right? I don't know if everyone knows that, and I'm sort of saying more specifically to youth that it's a crime for someone to share those images without your consent, and that shouldn't be happening. Okay. Computers owned by school. Probably the school is allowed to search those, and the police probably can search the computers because they're actually the school's computers, not your computer. Backpacks, no, the police shouldn't be searching backpacks. Lockers, yes, because again, they're owned by the school, and the courts have found there's a lower reasonable expectation of privacy in lockers, again, because they're owned by the school has access to them, etc. Personal computers or like cell phones, no, they absolutely, like teachers, principals, police should not be searching personal computers. And those devices should be password protected is what I would say too. Questions about that? Yeah.
The question is, are the school administration aware of these rules?
So the answer is that the school may have policies that they think the students are aware of, that the students probably are not aware of, and the policies themselves may be different than this, right? Depending on what school it is. I really think that if it gets complicated, right? Or you're unsure, and especially as youth, you know, you are entitled to sort of more enhanced protections than adults are. And so I think again, if the police are called in, or if the school administrators want to search something, I don't think that there's any harm in wanting to phone a lawyer or in asking, why are you allowed to search it? Like, is this written in a policy that I'm not aware of? Like, why are you allowed to, right? And I think that those are really important questions that people are afraid to ask, because again, we all like to be polite. We all like to be, you know, cooperative, respectful. But it doesn't mean that you can't ask legitimate questions, right? Any other questions sort of about school context or youth on this subject? No.
Some of the moms, they may have some questions.
I'm not going to put anyone on the spot. We've got time for questions at the end too.
Okay. Sure.
Oh, driving. We've got a question here. Oh, you're welcome. So being stopped while driving. So what you need to know about driving is that driving in Canada, the courts have said over and over and over again, driving is a privilege, it's not a right. Okay, so that means that you have less protection than you normally would, and then we've been talking about in the context of actually driving a vehicle. The police have more power, you have less power, is just an easy way to put it. The police can stop cars at any time for these reasons, okay? Number one, to see if the driver's consumed any alcohol or any drugs, to see if the vehicle is mechanically fit, like if it's okay to be driven on the road, to see whether the driver has a valid license, and then 4, to check any documentation that's associated with the vehicle. So for example, the police could, if I'm driving a rental vehicle, there's no reason why the police couldn't pull me over and ask for my identification and ask for the rental agreement, right, on the vehicle and the insurance and the registration. They're completely allowed to do that. Even if I haven't been speeding and I haven't committed any kind of traffic violation, you need to know that it's not like on the street where the police can't just randomly stop you. Honestly, in driving, they kind of can. So you should be prepared for that. Also, the police can ask you questions about your sobriety. So if they pull you over, they're allowed to ask you, have you been drinking tonight? They're allowed to ask you to give them all of the documents. You have to give them all of those documents that they ask for. They can also obviously perform tests to see whether or not you are sober. So a breathalyzer test. And that's important actually, is that that's now mandatory. So you don't have a choice about whether or not to comply. They're going to charge you with refusing if you don't comply. So they're allowed to do that. They're allowed to do these tests. And ultimately it's because the government has decided that this is, if we're going to let people drive and we're going to afford them that privilege, then we're allowed to check to make sure that they're sober while they're driving. Can police search my car? So the number one answer, the main answer really is no. The police can't search, they really can't search your car. There's some exceptions. So the first is they're allowed, when they pull me over and I'm trying to find my driver's license and my registration, they're allowed to shine a flashlight. They're allowed to look through my windows. They're allowed to, poke their head around and see what they think they see in there. And what's important about that is if they see something in plain view, and by plain view, I mean, they haven't opened any kind of door. They've literally just been talking to me and looking in my vehicle. If they see that I have a bag of weed or marijuana, whatever, sitting in my cup console, well, and it's not let's say it's not legal marijuana, or it's it's been opened, right? And it's within my access as I'm driving. Well, they're allowed to take that, right? Or a better example is if I'm driving around and I have a knife that's just right there. Yeah, they're allowed to take that knife. They're allowed to seize that. And obviously it gets more complicated when it's things like, oh, do I have, cocaine that's sitting there? Do I have a gun that's sitting there? That those should not be in plain view. And really the takeaway from that is if you're driving around with anything in your vehicle that you don't want police to see, you need to put it in a glove compartment or in the center console underneath your CDs or whatever. It should not be just floating around in your car. That creates problems, and that gives the police more power and more grounds to actually do a more invasive search of the vehicle. So you need to be careful about what's just floating around in the car. What else? Okay, the second time that they're allowed to search your vehicle, obviously, if they have a warrant, right? So if they have a warrant, it's the same advice as I gave for the house. There's nothing you can do. They're allowed to execute the warrant. And then the third is if they've got reasonable grounds to believe that there's illegal drugs or other evidence of a crime in the vehicle, and that it might be destroyed if they don't just seize the vehicle and get a warrant. So again, that's typically with drug cases is if they do arrest me, they will search the vehicle. 9 times out of 10, they will search the vehicle if I'm being arrested for a drug-related offense. And then it comes down to lawyers arguing in court about whether or not they actually had the appropriate grounds to search the vehicle. 2 things on this subject. Number 1, I would never give police permission to search my vehicle. You don't need to, there's no reason to. And then number 2, I don't answer questions about what's inside the vehicle. You don't have to answer those questions. It's again, it's same thing as the passwords with cell phones, right? You're not compelled to give information against yourself. So if the police come to me and they say, you know, it smells like weed in here. Do you have any weed in the vehicle? I don't have to answer that question. And in fact, I'm making the case a lot stronger for the Crown. It's a lot worse against me if I start saying, oh yeah, I actually have a whole bunch in the trunk and in this duffel bag. And my brother said that I was going to just bring it for him. And like, you don't need to start answering all of these questions that the police are asking you, okay, about what's inside the vehicle. How I would respond to that question is I would just say, you know, I want to talk to a lawyer. Can I talk to a lawyer?
But
And they should.
if they could see in your seat, one of your seats, but
Yeah.
it's kind of a covered, and they want to ask you to know what is that, they not be able to ask you that question.
So they're allowed to ask you that question. You don't have to answer that question. If you've got a bag sitting there and they say, what's that, or what's in the bag, you don't have to answer that question. No. If they believe that you're sitting there carrying around a whole bunch of drugs, then they have to decide, do they have sufficient grounds? Do they have enough information that will actually allow them to search that bag lawfully? And 9 times out of 10, they're not going to get there. However, if you've given information that helps them and that confirms what they're thinking, then it's harder to fight, right?
Yeah. So what is the answer then? What is in the bag?
Yeah, I think that if they answer what's in the back, again, you can say, do I have to answer these questions?
Okay.
Or can I talk to a lawyer? That's what I would say. It's like I say, it's same thing with the schools. Like, it's okay to play dumb a little bit, because that's the truth, right? Like, do you have to answer those questions? If you do have to answer the questions, why? Like, why does it matter if my child's diaper bag is in the back seat? Do they want to know? Do they want to know what's inside of it? Does it matter? Like, you know, that's what I mean. And I know it takes courage to say that to the police, but I also think that it's okay to ask, you know, do I need to tell you? And if so, why, right?
With the exception if you are at the border, right?
Yes, that's a huge exception. That's a big exception. If you are at the border, the police can search your cell phone, your laptop, your car. They can search everything. You should be prepared for them to search everything. Absolutely. That's a great point. Okay, I'm almost done here. The last, so this, right to remain silent. We've kind of touched on it a bit. If you have been criminally charged, you really should phone a lawyer and talk to a lawyer. You should not, like I say, you should not just say, no, it's fine, or no, I'm okay, or no, what is a lawyer going to do? Or no, I'll talk to one on Monday. You need to get legal advice. It's free. It's easy enough to get. It's easy enough to connect with someone. And also, it makes our cases better if you say, yeah, I want to talk to a lawyer, and the police mess it up and don't even give you a chance. Like, that makes our lives better. And there's things that we can do to fight those charges. You should just always say that you want to talk to a lawyer. After you've talked to a lawyer, the police are allowed to try to get a statement from you and to try, this is if you've been charged, right? If you've been criminally charged with something. So let's say I've been charged with assault. Yeah, the police are allowed to sit me down in a room and to ask me what happened. Now, you do not need to talk to them, and you should not talk to them. And I say this for a few reasons, and it's really important. Number one, once you've been charged, so like, let's say, for example, this is a domestic allegation, right? My partner called the police on me and said that I punched him or hit him or whatever, and the police are now arresting me. I've talked to a lawyer. The police then put me in a room and want to sit down with me and hear from me what happened. They are going to say, we just want to get your side of the story. Okay, there's 2 sides to every story. We just want to hear from you, Laura, about about what happened. We just want your side of the story. No. Okay. The police's job, their role in all of this is to collect information, is to collect evidence against you in support of the charges, okay, in support of the crime that they've just arrested you for. That's their job. Their job isn't to weigh the evidence, okay? So their job isn't to say, oh, do we believe Laura more, or do we believe, you know, her spouse more? Who do we think is telling the truth? That's not the police's job. That's the judge's job. So once they've charged you, like, there's no going back. There's nothing that I'm going to say that is going to change the police's mind and then make them realize, actually, you know what? She's telling the truth. This didn't happen. We're not going to charge her. Okay, that doesn't happen. And that's because that's not what the police's role in the system is. They're evidence gatherers, okay? And they're trying to gather evidence against you. That's their job, if they've charged you. So the police are not going to change their mind. Their job is not to make a determination. And you know what you say cannot be used for you. And by that, I mean, let's say I give my story to the police about what happened. And I say, you know, that just, tell them everything that happened, and it just I didn't hit my spouse or whatever. Okay. Or let's say that, yeah, I hit him, but it was in self-defense. Whatever my story is, let's say it's exculpatory, right? I'd be innocent on my story. Then let's say we go to trial and my lawyer says, you know, she said the same thing to police a year ago that she's saying today. That's not an argument that we're allowed as defense lawyers to make, because the person can lie twice, right? I could have been lying to the police, and as long as my lie is consistent, it doesn't make what I'm saying to be more true. And so I'm not allowed to argue that. However, the opposite is true, which is that if I say something in my statement to the police where I said, for example, oh yeah, I hit him, but it was in self-defense. And then I get up on the day of trial and I testify and I say, I never hit him. Okay. Well, that's a problem because there's a huge inconsistency, right? Either I lied to the police, either I was mistaken, or I lied to the police, or I'm lying in court, right? There's something wrong with my evidence. So things that you might not think are a big deal, like whether or not it was a Saturday or a Sunday or whatever, can become a big deal, and it can really affect your case. And so there's nothing that you gain from giving a statement to the police. It doesn't help you, and it doesn't help your defense. Your opportunity to give your side of the story, to give your version of events, is at a trial if you choose to testify. Okay. But this is not a situation where the police are going to reverse the charges or decide not to charge you or whatever. Okay. That's not what's happening, because if they have charged you, they have reasonable and probable grounds to believe that you've committed a crime. Okay. And they're gathering evidence against you. The last thing that I have here, there's nothing wrong with not giving a statement to the police. Okay. So they will start these interviews by being really friendly, right? Like they'll say, oh, you're Somali. That's cool. My cousin's dating a Somali guy. He's really nice. We just had a barbecue. It was so awesome. And like, yeah, I was down in Laurier Park. Oh yeah, you've been there too. That's cool. No, you're not going to be like, oh, you're not going to be saying, oh, what's his name? Oh, I might know him, whatever, right? Like, you're not going to be talking about the weather or anything with the police, okay? Because once you start talking, it's very difficult to stop, right? And it becomes difficult to transition from where you're talking about the weather and then all of a sudden they're asking you questions that you don't want to answer, to stop talking. And so it's really important that you just say, no comment, no comment, no comment, no comment, no comment, no comment, over and over again. You're not being rude. You're not being disrespectful. That you are exercising your constitutional right, and there is nothing wrong with it at all. the police are not going to treat you worse. They're not going to refuse to, release you. They're not going to put you in jail. They will understand, but they're allowed to keep putting on the pressure, right? They're allowed to try to get you to say more and more and more and more and more. So if that happens, like I say, you should just phone a lawyer and get some of this advice as it relates to your specific charge. And then again, the lawyer can tell you what you need to know going into that police interview, right? So I think that concludes my presentation. But like I say, I'm sort of an open book, and I can answer to the best of my ability. I can answer any questions that are criminal law related, whether they're sort of covered in the presentation or not. I'm very happy to sort of answer anything.
All right, so we just want to give an opportunity now from people from Florida to ask. So, Mara, you have a question? Oh, I see. You're just thanking. Thank you. Anybody with a question?
I'm going to
Not a
stop
question.
sharing my screen.
Oh, she has a question. That's one person. Yeah, go ahead.
No, I don't have a question. I was just gonna say, like, this has been really helpful. I didn't know any of this before. I just knew, like, not to talk to police, just ask for a lawyer and not to let them search anything.
Yeah. I'm really glad to hear that it's been helpful. It's like I say, it's something that, like before law school, I had absolutely no idea. And like my family members, for example, like I still don't think that they know.
Yeah.
And it's just like, it's very basic and it's very important. And, I'm someone who's white, like visibly, obviously I'm white. And so I've been afforded privileges that, you guys haven't. And I imagine that being asked by the police or, having the police try to engage with you or ask you questions is a different experience. And I think that that's like why it's all the more important that you are equipped with this information, because ultimately knowledge is power. And like I say, this is really meant to empower you so that when you're interacting with the police, you know that you're within your lane, right? And that you're completely in the right to ask questions and to not give information. And like, keep in mind too, I imagine, and I don't know, but like specifically with the Somali Canadian community in Edmonton, like the police have another role where they're trying to community build too, right? And I'm not blind to that. I know that not all police officers are bad, right? And there are some that are sincerely trying to build relationships in the community, so that they have a relationship. There's a trusting connection with various community members. And I think that like, if that's the case, that's also a good thing. But it doesn't take away from what your charter rights are and knowing what those are so that you can make informed decisions about how you engage with the police, right?
Yeah, no, this was very, very informative. Even myself, I've been around in this country for a very long time, longer than where I was born. So I have learned a lot today from this. I really, really appreciate that. There was an incident that just about a year ago where a couple of police came to my house, knocking my door, and I opened the door. And they said, "Sir, can you come out?" And outside. And they said, "Oh, have you been drinking?" I had never drunk alcohol at all myself, right? So I said, "No, I've never been." "Oh, yeah, people have just reported you that you were just driving sporadically, changing lanes the wrong way kind of things. And that's what we have just received the information." I said, "Do you guys have any video just to show me what I have done? Because I don't remember doing that." So
Yeah.
they said, "No, we don't have, but we rely on public information as to, as that's why we are here. And we want to give you a ticket." I said, "Well, for what? You didn't even show me anything that I have done wrong." And he insisted on giving me a ticket. I said, "Okay, you want to write a ticket, go ahead and write it, but we're going to see each other in court, right?" I put the date into my calendar and took that day, half day off from work. to go to the trial, and I went there, and the lady there said, you know, that officer never turned in that ticket at all. So,
Oh, my goodness. Oh, my
but
goodness.
I was
And you know,
ready because I am the African liaison to Edmonton Police myself.
Yeah.
I work with the chief of the police. I was waiting this day that they're gonna come after me to bring something like this to my house and to myself.
sure.
I
Yeah.
just wanted to use that as an evidence. I still used it. I
Yeah,
gave it
yeah.
to him, but there's sometimes, you know, the relationship, as you just mentioned, hasn't been good as far as the Black community here in Edmonton.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
relationship is not there. Some of the police people, members are trying to connect and make the relationship better. I was trying even myself to make it better, but there are a few officers that are just undermining that.
Mhm.
And I was just recently being interviewed by Global Mail because there's now kind of suggestion that instead of having a provincial jurisdiction in terms of education, that it should be similar to engineering. I graduated from Windsor, Ontario. I can come to Alberta and practice as an engineer. I can go to Quebec. If I don't have a license, I won't be able to practice. Why not do the same thing like doctors? Why not do the same thing to the police officers? So they are certified by external body. If they violate some of the rights, then they should be losing their certificate, and then they can no longer police kind of thing. So we are working on that side of it.
Yeah, yeah. No, and I really appreciate being called in and being asked to come in and talk to you. And I really do too. Like, if any one of your community members, your family, your friends has questions, you're not interrupting my busy day. Like, you can always just phone me, and I'm very happy to answer questions, or heaven forbid anyone does get charged. I'm very happy to help guide you through this process. I'm just here to support and to offer any help that anyone needs or wants at all. So I'm very, very happy to be here, and I hope that it was informative and interesting for people.
We are grateful to have you, but also this will be a connection for all of us and some of the mothers that who are here, or all of them, in case that someone needs kind of a consultant or a lawyer. Laura is available for us, so I'll be providing that contact information. Whoever needs it, they can connect with me.
Perfect. Yeah. And don't hesitate to just you can send out my my personal information. I don't mind that at all. Yeah. So please feel free.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
You're
Really
very welcome. Yeah,
nice
absolutely.
Well.
So great to be here. And thanks
Thank
everyone
you so much
for
for this
coming.
today.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
thanks so much for coming. It's great to be here.
Thank you guys,
Okay,
all of
care,
you guys, all the
Bye.
mothers. Let's just thank for Laura for one more, all of us anyway. So thank you so much. Thanks a lot. Have a good one. Bye-bye.